Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Game Pass. I'm Nathan. Well guys, I'm back. After hundreds of hours in Elden Ring across almost every class in the game, and I came back to my Astrologer. After all this time, will she still be dope AF? Will she still be OP? Yeah, Astrologer is still rad and cool. Radicool, if you would. Turns out, Dingleberry still reigned supreme even into the mid-game, and Elden Ring quickly went from actual combat to oops, all Dingleberries within minutes of loading this character. However, that original video was just the beginning. Where do we go now? How do we stay OP? Was the impact nerfed so it only gives 2 int? Yes is the answer to that last question. You can stop commenting now. Well, guess what? I found even more broken stuff, amazing stuff, insane stuff, and I'm gonna help you stay just as cool as Astrologer with minimal effort and time. And as an added bonus, almost all of this stuff is technically doable from the start of the game, though it does require beating some optional bosses, which may be a little too hard for a beginner. So consider this an expansion pack to the first video. There you got a taste of power, but you were craving more. So enough with this worthless intro, let's get right to it. Here's how to keep your Astrologer godly as you enter the mid-game in about an hour-ish. But there is no farming this time, so that's good. Here's your usual spoiler warning. I am going to be spoiling the 2 areas just north of the Lunari of the Lakes area, as well as Lunari of the Lakes. Additionally, I do spoil 2 field bosses and 1 boss at the end of a mine. I intentionally do not spoil anything from dungeon number 2, even though there's good stuff in there, but I will talk about it generally, and there will be a follow-up video explaining how to get the 2 items you can find in dungeon number 2 if you are okay with spoilers for that. So check that out after this video, should you wish. Good? Great, let's get moving. We got a lot to cover. All right, we're going to start with the most asked question and also the most boring question. This will be fast. Where do I put my points? Well, luckily, Astrologer is pretty simple. First and foremost, I would suggest getting Vigor to 20. Now, if you're an experienced Souls player who dodges projectiles like Neo in the Matrix, you can probably use this a little more sparingly, but for me and all of us scrubs out there, that 20 Vigor will ensure you have a chunky bit of health in case you make mistakes. You'll also want to add 1 singular, sad, and lonely point to your dexterity. I will explain why later, but just 1. After that, you're basically going to be binge watching Rick and Morty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week as you pump your int until it hits 60. Along the way, I'd suggest putting a handful of points into mines to help with the mana issues, but our ultimate Doomsday Laser spell, which requires 60 intelligence, and it's also the soft cap, so that is our end state for now. At the end of this, your swole state should look something like this: 40 Vigor, 30 Mind, and 60 int. You are welcome to drop some points into Endurance now and then if you are fat rolling and there's a particular suit of armor you want to wear, but honestly, you probably don't need to go any higher than 15. And by the way, if in the other video you put points into Strength to equip a certain shield or something like that, or Arcane to find more items, don't worry, you unlock resets after the second main boss, and they are fairly plentiful around the world. It actually doesn't matter what you did, because by the time you get done with this game, you're going to be so well equipped, you're going to be able to destroy that second boss and get to that point very easily. So just keep on trucking, and you can switch to min-max Dingleberry mode then. Alright, we're done with the boring stuff. Let's talk about my one true love: sticks. Okay, so real talk and follow up from the last video. I really thought the Demihuman stick we got from that sad boss would eventually outclass the meteorite stick, because there is no way that an unupgradable rod that you just pick up off the ground would be better than 90% of the sticks in the game. Right, Miyazaki? Right? Miyazaki? Uh-oh. So yeah, Meteorite Staff is so boss, I'd argue you can take it to the end of the game. But what if you want some options? Well, I have 2 for you. First is Luicent's Glintstone Staff, which you can find in Florida in the Magic Village from a boss. This village is right next to where that horrible mine spits you out after your vape trip. You do have to unlock the door though, and how you do that is you quickly run up here, past the tree, and then hop onto this tower to light a bonfire. Then from the grace, you just run under everything, heading to the left, basically as far as you can go until you find the door, and inside you'll find Ornstein and Smaug Jr. These bosses honestly are really easy with Rock Toss. Everything in this game is really easy with Rock Toss, so just toss rocks, aka Dingleberry Supreme, at them and take them out. In the back of the room, you will find the staff. Now this staff updates with Somber Stones, and it technically outdamaged the Meteorite Staff once it gets further upgraded to about 6 or 7, but it has a very steep cost. It makes all your spells cost more FP. It is also supposed to increase the damage of your sorceries by the amount of extra FP, but that is actually currently bugged, which for me is just unacceptable, as it means less Dingleberries per minute in my Oops All Dingleberries build, and I am not for that. Now, I do still recommend getting it, because if they patch it and fix it, this might end up being the best staff in the game, but for now, I'd say get it and sit on it and wait and see. So we need another stick. Now the second stick we can get is from the second Great Lord you can kill inside the Academy, and it's called the Carian Regal Scepter. Once you kill Big Boss Waifu number 2, you get her soul and can turn that into an item or a spell. I highly recommend using the mausoleums to clone this soul in particular so you can get both of her rewards, as she gives a very strong spell that requires like 75 int, but also an excellent staff. Now this stick boosts her spell specifically, but at +6 it does outscale the meteorite staff in raw power, but you do lose the gravity buff from the meteorite spell, which makes our rock toss Dingleberry OP. So for me, it was not a trade-off worth doing until that staff gets to at least +9 or +10. So once again, I go back to our old standby, the meteorite staff. So congrats, meteorite staff, you did it! You are clearly the most obscenely broken stick in the game that you can just find lying on the ground in an abandoned trailer in Florida, which means this entire section has been pointless. So let's move on and forget it ever happened. So when it comes to our talismans, there's one I consider core to this build, which is Ratagon Soreseal, not to be confused with Ratagon Scarseal. Ratagon Soreseal is actually pretty easy to get, but we have to go into a haunted house. This haunted house is also known as Fort Feroth, which is by the giant dragon that you can kill for 50,000 souls early. It's here on the map. I am not going to give directions on how to get here specifically. There are multiple videos to cover this on the channel. Once you're in Fort Feroth, you're going to need to run through the spooky bat cave, avoiding every instance of Batman, and get to the ladder. I'm warning you, pretty much everything in this place is going to kill you, so you just want to hoof it. Once you get to the top, you're going to need to open the treasure chest and grab that item. We're going to need this later. Once you have it, head right, hop on down. You're going to head to that hole in the ceiling, the one with a ladder. Once you hop down there, you're going to move forward and then quickly turn around, crossing over this ledge, run past the giant rat that makes all of the rules, and fall down this other hole, and then spin around this corner, and there will be your Soreseal. And after that, you will probably die because this was a one-way trip. Now, this amulet is really good, one of the best, I'd say, in the game. It grants attributes to all of your stats, but at the cost of taking more damage. But we're the Astrologer, so who gives a crap? We stand 40 feet away and throw Dingleberries. Ain't gonna get touched. Plus, the stats it gives are so good, it basically negates the additional damage you take, so there's literally no reason to not equip this. This also is the reason we can equip the OP weapon we're gonna get later without investing more than a single point in dex. So keep it on at all times and fight through the pain. Remember, pain is weakness leaving the body. The other talisman I'd recommend that's easy to pick up is the Blessed Dew talisman, which provides passive healing. We want this because any flasks we can move from healing to mana are good for us. This will help us patch our wounds in between fights that we took from 4 to 5 miles away. To get it, you'll need to travel to the south of the Weeping Peninsula and climb the tower. Once there, you'll open a chest at the top, and Vape Nation will once again whisk you away on a magical, drug-fueled journey to a place you shouldn't be, the capital. Here, touch the grates and just hoof it past the Iron Giant and open the chest for the Talisman. This is not the friendly Iron Giant from the movie. This guy hates you, and if he hits you basically twice, you will be dead. Once you got what you're here for, just grab it, bail, and move on. I usually use Dewdrop as my flex talisman slot, and once you get a third, you will have a lot more options. Other than that, there are 2 more that I would suggest. The first is the Gold Scarab, which gives more runes, and there's a video on how to get that one here. And the second one is the Graven School Talisman. This one is really good and is found in the second dungeon. It boosts the power of all of your sorceries by 4%. This talisman is hidden behind a hidden wall bookshelf just before the first boss room in this second dungeon. Again, I am not going to spoil it here, but I will have a follow-up video on the channel for those who do not care about spoilers. There are plenty of other great talismans in the game, but I found these ones are the ones I am equipping the most often and the ones I would suggest. Okay, it's time to use that Ratagon Soreseal and get our Astrologer to embrace their inner weeaboo and become acquainted with magical Nippon Steel. The good news is this is one of the best int swords in the entire game. The bad news is you have to kill a Maul Ninja Fire Gila monster in order to get it. In order to get our weapon, the Moonveil Katana, we are going to look for a mine called the Gael Tunnel. Now, it has 2 entrances, one in happy, peaceful Limgrave and one in Hell World, Florida. We are going to have to take the Florida entrance, which can easily be found by warping to that main Kaled point here, running around the mountain, avoiding the giant crows, and hopping into the mine. Now, be warned, this is a one-way ticket, so if you drop down, prepare to put on your murder with extreme prejudice face and fight your way to the end. Luckily, we have Dingleberries, so nothing they can't do, which the miners are weak to, so dingle them to death. Okay, phrasing on that one, I'll give you that. Grabbing any resources you'd like along the way, open the door, talk to the pothead, and grace. Now, behind these double doors is our boss. He's a Gila monster. He's single and ready to mingle. He loves Nippon Steel, and he can kill me in 2 hits. Also, the footage I recorded of my sorcerer killing him was corrupted, so watch my other guy kill him while I give you some tips. First, always check to see if someone's summoning sign is outside. After this video goes up, I will put mine down on Xbox and try to help. Second, the minute you enter the arena, you may be tempted to summon. Do not do this. He almost always bum rushes you, spewing, spitting, and slobbering lava all over the place, which will kill you extremely fast. Your primary goal once you enter the arena is to get as much distance from you and the stinky lizard as possible. Roll away away and keep your distance, this is a primary strategy. Once you feel safe, pop your summon. I'd suggest a ranged one that's also tanky, like our Lord and Savior the Jellyfish, and channel your inner Doom player, as you are going to basically be circle strafing him the entire game. His ranged attacks are generally weaker and much easier to dodge than his melee ones. If he does attempt to rush you, just run away until he chills out. I would suggest spamming Rock Fling until you finally down him. It may take a couple of tries. After defeating him, you will finally have the Moonveil Katana, which is why we put that 1 point into Dex. This weapon's art is absolutely absurd. It's unsheathed, where you hold L2 and then press either R1 or R2, but with energy blades. We're going full Japan Cyberpunk here today. Seriously, spam L2 plus R2 like a true samurai, stagger every boss, and then deliver the honorable killing blow. Magical honorable killing blow, because it's technically an imp dex weapon. If you would like to upgrade it with Somber Stones to +5, I suggest checking out my Confessor guide, where I go out to easily get Somber Stone 1 through 5 from the very beginning of the game. And yeah, this sword is good enough to carry you throughout the entire game, even without Dingleberries, though I do suggest still primarily playing at range. I mostly use this in tight quarters, and it's kind of an emergency button, as the amount of stagger damage L2 plus R2 does is just, it's god tier. It's unbelievable. There is one thing about it that's a bit annoying. We need the Nippon Steel in our right hand and our stick in the left to use both magic and the weapon ash. However, on horseback, you probably would prefer to be ranged. So when on horse, you're going to need to switch your weapon hand and stick hand so you can cast. Yeah, I know, it's really obnoxious, but the life of a samurai astrologer is a solitary one, and one that involves switching items between your hands every 5 minutes. Alright, so I think it's time we get a new hat. I know. We had to literally commit imp genocide before the damn thing would drop from the gremlins, but there is a better one, and it's in Dungeon 2. Now, I'm not going to spoil it, but I will say that if you traverse the Academy rooftops and find a particularly shiny crab, it'll drop this equally ugly hat. Why is every int hat 1 made of stone and 2 ugly as sin? Regardless, this gives a whopping 6 int, so you will probably be wearing this forever. If you'd rather look at a hat that looks like a then you can get this int hat from Gaming Grandma at the round table after killing the Great Lord number 2. Now, it doesn't take your health down like the first hat does, but it also looks terrible and doesn't give as much int, so I just stuck with the Stonehead hat. Alright, it's time for the meat and potatoes of what makes an astrologer good: spells. But before we get into that, I'm going to repeat what I said before. Dingleberries, aka Glintstone Pebble, is still the workhorse of this build. It keeps scaling, its mana cost is great, and you will be using it pretty much the entire game. This spell flat out rules, and you should love it. Additionally, Rock Fling is still nuts. I honestly thought this would scale out once I got more gravity spells, but it still just outperforms all of them. It ruins bosses, and as you get more mind, you'll be able to cast it more and more times, leading to more rock-related safety hazards for the bosses. Honestly, I got through the entire 3rd and 4th area primarily using the spells. They are that good. Now, you can supplement these two with some additional ones that I would highly suggest, which may pale in comparison to Dingleberry and Greater Dingleberry, but not everything in life is about Dingleberries, or so I'm told. The first is Magical Glintblade, which starts on the Prisoner by default, and the second is Glintstone Greatsword, both of which can be found here at this church in Lunaria of the Lakes. They are sold to you by the Dog Pope, who is absolutely the greatest character design in any video game ever made. Fight me IRL. Sorry, Pot Knight man, you got nothing on His Holiness Lord Francis La Tortise. Magical Glintblade is a delayed Dingleberry, but instead of a fruit, it's been carved into a deadly knife. Its delay is actually very helpful, as many enemies are designed to dodge when you press the attack button, and you can edge them out with this. It also does more damage than Dingleberries, probably because it's sharp, and I found it could be very effective on horseback against large bosses. Great spell to have. Carian Greatsword is also a good spell to have. That's like an upgraded Carian Slicer, which I would also suggest if we didn't have the world's greatest moon katana. Carian Greatsword is fantastic for hitting everybody at the party at once, as your kit isn't super well equipped for a mass number of enemies, which the game loves to throw at you the further along it goes. There's a bunch of other spells you could try: Carian Great Arrow, the Full Moon spell, and a bunch of stuff you'll find along the way, but I found that these 4 are my core kit. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. There's literally nothing else that can be added to Astrologer at this time. No forbidden arts, no secrets, no OP brokenness. Please just ignore the fact that there is much more video here. What could possibly be in there? So thank you so much for watching, and you're not falling for it. Okay, let's be real here. There is one other spell we could get, and one other potion we could concoct to make that spell completely ridiculous. A thing that melts bosses, that breaks the game, and will push your astrologer to their limit. I, of course, am talking about the Death Star Beam, also known as Comet Azure. Yes, the video time betrayed me, and I have one big gnarly trick up my sleeve, and it's an OP trick. that ultimate spell in the game, Comet Azure, and you can cast it for free. But what does this power cost? Well, it's going to be a lot of time on horseback and a lot of ladders, and apparently 7 more minutes of this video. I'm sorry about that. Before I dive in, this is where some of the spoilers for the northern area of the lakes is, as well as an optional boss thingy. If I'm being completely honest, with the kit I outlined above, you will be more than equipped to easily breeze through the mid-game. But if you really desire ultimate power, and oops all Dingleberries just doesn't do enough for you, you want that real Captain Crunch, watch on. It's just a bit of an ordeal, I am warning you. Alright, first we're gonna go get the best spell in the game, Comet Azure. This spell shoots a beam of concentrated firepower, not unlike the Sword of Dark and Flame, but you can keep firing it so long as you have mana. It's totally nuts and requires 60 freaking int to use, but it'll be an absolute boss melter. So strap in, grab some snacks, and prepare because this is going to be long. So first we're going to need to unlock the Great Class Elevator, which is here on the map. But for that, we're going to need the other half of that disc that we picked up back in our spooky haunted house. To get it, you're going to need to return to Limgrave and head over here to Fort Haught. That's how you pronounce it. Don't at me. Which thankfully does have a grace outside. Climb up to the top, defeat the mini boss, micro boss, big bleedy guy in armor, whatever. You kill him, you climb the tower. Here's where you'll find piece number 2. Now we're going to head to the elevator, which in order to get there, you'll need to pass through the academy via a Glintstone key. I'm not going to go into explicit detail here, but I will say that the key is here on the map. The way through is through this grace on the map, and then just head north through the north door, and you will appear here, touch the grace, and then head north and to the east towards our elevator. Now as you approach the elevator, these guys will fire an entire trebuchet catapult at you because Miyazaki doesn't know the meaning of the word overkill, but sneak on by and grab the grace. You can use the elevator with the 2 parts of the disc you found to get to the land of perpetual autumn. Once you get here, head north and grab the 2 graces along the way. I'm sorry I don't have footage of me actually getting them, but here we go from the northernmost one. We're going to head up this cliff face until we find this waterlogged village, which does have a grace on the far side if you continue through the canyon opposite it. Once you continue through here, you're going to need to avoid all of the fire plumes that are popping out in the fire swamp here, just like in the Princess Bride. They do a ton of damage, so I highly suggest avoiding them. You should also hang left throughout the canyon the entire time, so eventually you will appear at this castle. We're now going to ignore the castle on the map and instead head left and use Talon's amazing ability to resist fire to run across the lava. Again, we're just going to continue hanging left here as we continue through the canyon. It's a long journey. Luckily, there's a grace at this shack. There is a boss on the cliff face up ahead, which we are going to run past, pop the next grace and sit so they de-aggro, and we finally reached our guy. Next to the grace is this interesting fellow who you're going to talk to, speak telepathically, gaze lovingly at. All of the above? Well, regardless, once you do that, he will impart upon you the wisdom of the gods, Death Star Beam. Now, to use this beam, it requires a lot of work. You're going to need 60 int, and you're going to need 3 entire spell slots because it is a prima donna. Additionally, this beam has a crazy long charge up time before unleashing a giant Death Star shot, which you cannot redirect, and as long as you keep holding spell, you will keep firing until you run out of mana. My suggestion is actually to not have it equipped all the time because it's too cumbersome with its windup. However, it's absolutely devastating against large bosses that have bigger hitboxes, so equip it for them instead. Alright, good spell, but let's go even further beyond. Let's make it completely free to cast, and buff it. The next bit is going to be a bit of a pain, as you're going to have to kill an even harder boss than fire-breathing Weeaboo Gila monster. I know, how could it get any worse? First, we're going to head to the big tree in the lakes area. I found the easiest way is to circle up around here, hit this point of grace, which you will need anyway for the Var quest, and once there, just head south until you hit it. There you will find an ugly avatar who is not the hard boss I mentioned earlier. This guy's a chump and has an ingrained weakness to Dingleberries and Dingleberry Senior. So kill him and you will get our first ingredient, the Magic Shroud Cracked Tear. This makes it so that after you drink your Wondrous Psychic, you will get a boost in magic damage for actually a pretty long time, which is great. So our Build-A-Bear potion is going well, but that wasn't the real prize. Let's break this further. Return to our area of autumn at the top of the Great Class Elevator and simply follow the road forward until you reach a busted bridge with a shop on it. Here you will touch the grace and use the warp to fly across. On the side, you'll find some absolutely gorgeous windmills. Seriously, this area is so pretty. But resist the urge to become Don Quixote and murder them with extreme prejudice, and instead loop under and keep following this path westward. It's going to take a little bit, but eventually you'll cross a very sketchy looking bridge and leave Autumn Town for Mount Doom. And here's where we're going to play Metal Gear Solid 3, but only that part in the game where Snake climbs a ladder for 2 hours. Head past this first batch of enemies and you'll notice a not so easy to see ladder ascending the mountain. Seriously, I missed this stupid thing like 6 times before I had to look up where the hell it was. Get climbing and put that song from Metal Gear Solid 3 on. Once you get up here, hit the grace, pop torrent, and head right. Past Pumpkinhead and jump the gap, and you will find one of those tutorial boss blob guys guarding our next ladder. Either kill him, which I did so he's not on mine, or don't. Either way, climb up the ladder. Off here, we run to the left and grab the second most ladder, and up again. Here is a merchant who picked the absolute worst spot for a shop. Ignore his bad attempt attempts to please capitalism and climb up yet another ladder. This is the last one, I promise. From here, pop torrent and hop down and cross another rickety bridge. Hit the grace and notice yet another long ladder. Oh, but what's this? A jump pad? So Miyazaki apparently remembered that he added an ability to quickly ascend great heights, but only for this ladder. Fantastic. Pop up, avoid the big chunky boss by heading right and jumping over the rocks. You're going to head down here, watching out for all the arrows that are flying at you. Head left, grabbing the map and dodging these gross hands. Hit the grace, and this is our checkpoint for the upcoming boss. You're now going to continue heading down into the bowels of hell next to the tree, and he will spawn. A palette swap of the horrible alien beastie from under the first castle, except this time he's meaner and uglier and has much more health. I am going to warn you, early on this guy is very, very tough. So you'll need to play carefully and you might actually need to come back later. And that magic Glintblade actually worked better on him than Rock Toss some of the time because Rock Toss has such a big wind up that you're more likely to get hit and you're going to need to dodge quite a bit, but that's just me. You can also summon here to distract him as well. On death, he sheds a single tear, the Cerulian hidden tear, which we then get. He also cries another tear, but we're not going to talk about that one. Adding this to your Build-A-Bear potion has an insane effect. All spells temporarily cost no mana. Like, this is already good, but with our death beam, yeah, just channel it as long as you can. What's the game going to do about it? Prepare to stand still and just melt every boss with a big hitbox. You've discovered the secret arts, and now your power is greater than both gods and man. Every astrologer before you has tried and failed, but you succeeded. You finally reached the stars. Yes, that's an astrologer pun. Please clap. So yeah, you've got a death beam with unlimited mana, you got a bunch of great talismans, you got some backup sticks, you got an overpowered Nippon steel, and you have a build guide. Where else can we go from here? Well, if you're into cosmetic souls, that Snow Witch set looks rad as hell, although you do have to beat Lord number 3 and complete some quests to get it. There's also a bunch of wizard gear, but in my experience, the Academy hat is still the best, and then just wear whatever you want in terms of armor. The weapons, talismans, and spells you have are good enough to take you to endgame, no joke, though I still highly suggest buying new spells and testing them as you go along. You might find a new favorite. And of course, be sure to upgrade your katana as often as you can, and if for some reason you decide to switch from our Lord and Savior the Meteorite Staff, you will just need to get your new secondary stick to +10 so it can compete. Some sticks were just born better, I guess. And that's all I have for you today. Please be sure to check out my second video on how to get that really great hat and the talisman that is also going to be on the channel, so long as you don't care about spoilers. There are more guides coming up, including a follow-up to the Holy Knight as well as a Mage Knight beginner's build. I also have a claws-based bleed build that's been really, really fun that I want to share with you guys at some point. But aside from that, thank you so much for watching the video. Please be sure to share it around, give it a like, do all that good stuff. I just appreciate you watching it, and go have yourself a great day and enjoy Elden Ring.